And
Earl needs some makeup, doesn't he?
yeah.
Earl's beautiful just the way he is.
I don't have no teeth because they all got knocked out by zebras and you name it.
Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from, where are we?
Ingram, Texas.
Ingram. I haven't had any sleep in a few days. Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from Ingram, Texas. I've been in this neck of the woods filming the Texas Reptile Expo with Miss Bonnie Reisman. So it's Saturday night and I've had the honor and privilege of being invited to Dr. Earl Turner's home, his beautiful home. He and his wife Anna have invited us over for dinner and to do a little bit of talking about old times. So Dr. Turner, if you wouldn't mind, tell us just a little bit about the old days, kind of how you got started and whatnot.
When I got started, I was quite young and I found a baby coral snake, a hatchling, real small. Put it in a Coke bottle and brought it home. I was so proud. I didn't know it was a coral snake. I just knew it was a snake. My mother turned about 5 sheets of white. My dad got the shotgun out and there went the coral snake, the bottle and everything else. So that didn't deter me. I got on my bicycle a few weeks later with some old feed sacks. Went down Galveston Island because we lived in Galveston at the time. And they were at the medical branch, and I rode about 10 miles down the island to this one area where it was all salt cedars and like little tidal pools, and I caught some real nice water moccasins. Well, that didn't go over big either, so there went my water moccasins. I was about to say, you know, hell with this. I just don't understand why everything I'm so proud of, they're doing away with. Well, so my grades in school were so-so. They were poor at best. Every time I got a chance, I was looking out the window at something, and I was not interested in learning about anything in the books. Finally, I think they gave up and just said, well, you know, let him take a shop class or something. He's just got to get out of high school and get him out of here before he gets in a lot of trouble. Because it was easy to do there in Galveston at the time. And, excuse me. So that summer, I had a chance to go to Florida, and I met Ross Allen and his sons, and they invited me to go snake hunting and also to stay at their home. And I stayed for 3 or 4 days, and I came back with everything from huge indigos, because that time it was legal.
Right.
And corn snakes and you name it. I mean, it was just the total spectrum of snakes that you could find.
Wow.
And really lucky because he gave me a lot of stuff.
Wow.
And from there, I got a job with Arthur Jones. And I worked off and on for Arthur Jones for several years. And he was probably the most brilliant person I have ever met or ever will meet. He had an IQ that was not measurable, and this is no kidding. He had a photographic memory, and by the time he was like 13 or 14 years old, he had read all the books in the library there in this one little town of Oklahoma where he grew up. His mother and father were both doctors. Arthur ran away when he was about 14 or 15 years old and joined a carnival. I don't know how hard his parents tried to find him because he was always in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
He was, as I said, an extremely intelligent person, but by the same token, like many people who are extremely intelligent, he had some really strange quirks about him. And, you know, we talk about bipolar. I've seen him go off on a tangent that makes people who have a bipolar problem, be like somebody at the candy store. But usually for good reason. He was so smart, he couldn't stand to have to explain to somebody more than once about something. He, by the way, is the man who developed, and it was his idea, everything, some of the slow motion mechanisms for today's cinematographers. He also devised some items that are used on today's modern jets.
Oh, wow.
And he was the inventor, developer, and what have you, of Nautilus gym sets. Not only was he that, but he was one of the biggest and best animal people I've ever seen.
Huh.
He brought back the largest collection or collected number of giant East African crocodiles, Nile crocs, that have ever been done, ever been seen, ever will be seen.
All wild caught.
They were all wild caught, and they were brought back in the hold of a steamship that they had welded these cages in.
Wow.
The separations, and then put some water in there so that they could make the trip to New Orleans.
So about what year was this?
1955, 1956, somewhere in there. And the average size of those crocodiles was about 14 feet. The largest ones were going between 16 and 17 feet. They ended up at Tarpon Zoo in Tarpon Springs, Florida. Many of the zoos bought them. Some of them are probably still alive. Earl Brocklesby at the Black Hills Reptile Garden in Rapid City, he has some. In fact, he helped bankroll that deal.
Oh, really?
And yep, and also Jones did this by himself with the help of a bunch of the natives there,
Oh.
the Turkanas and what have you, that he was able to show how to do this with ropes and what have you. And I have books that he wrote a book before he died a few years back called "And God Laughed," and that's just Jones. But from there, I also met a lot of other people who were more in the academia side, and they were interesting, but they weren't near the fun or had near the ganas that Arthur Jones and some of those people had, because I'd met some of the people that were the animal handlers, collectors, and so on. And just like when they filmed Hatari with John Wayne back in the early 60s, the main handler there, it was at T. Carr Hartley's Mamela Game Farms in Lake Nakuru, East Africa. The main handler was a man who is famous, world famous, named Willie de Beers, D-E and capital B-E-E-R-S. He's a Dutchman, and Willie probably is dead now. Willie had a lion, and she was in season. He didn't know it. She rode up in the top of his safari wagon when he was going after something, and he went to push her over, and she bit his thumb off. He tied a piece of string or something around his thumb and kept going. She ate his thumb. And I saw, the thing is that these kind of people, you meet once in your lifetime, and they leave an imprint.
During Arthur's Nile Croc expedition, do you know if any of those people were killed or injured by the crocs?
We lost, one man was lost. Arthur told them, don't get near those enclosures. Those crocs, they can shoot out. And they can outrun a man. In a short period of time, a 2-ton animal can go over 40 miles an hour. And that's like a man running the 100 in about 10 flat. So you're at a big disadvantage if you get close to them. Well, one of the guys one night must have been drinking too much pulque or something. I don't know. He got too close to the cage. The croc came in, grabbed him, yanked him in, and by the time everybody else woke up, there was another croc right next to it and another pen. They had feasted on the native.
Ooh.
And there was nothing that could be done. The rest of the people realized, and it wasn't the fault of the crocodiles, it was the guy's fault. One of the crocodiles got loose.
During the trip?
No.
Afterward?
Afterward, after they had landed there at New Orleans and taken him over to Slidell, Louisiana, where he had this huge animal compound called the Reptile Jungle. Well, it got loose, and I don't know exactly what took place, except that there were some duck hunters that were at the Bay St. Louis, just a little ways over, and apparently their shelter that they were in was attacked by about a 14-foot Nile crocodile. None of them died, but I don't think they went duck hunting for quite some time after that, and they probably were looking for laundromats too.
Oh, man.
And consequently, the cold water and the cold weather and what have you, it died and it was floating, and they got it. And I have a photograph of it. It is a big animal.
Wow.
You know, I've met a lot of people in this. C.C. McClung owned the snake farms here at New Braunfels and the one at Laplace, Louisiana. And I worked for Mac for some time. A lot of things can be said good and bad about Mac, but I'll tell you one thing, his word was good. He wanted me to go to work for him, and I was at the Tulsa Zoo. I was curator there at the Tulsa Zoo, and I was miserable. The amount of politics was terrible. So I told him, I said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, I need $8,000 up front. He said, for what? I said, well, to make sure that I can get a place. And I said, I want to go ahead and buy a mobile home and maybe even have it taken down there from Tulsa to New Braunfels, which I did do. He sent me $8,000. Anytime he would tell you, well, I'll pay you this or I'll pay you that, and you got the animal, I'll tell you what, his word was great. It was you could take it to the bank. Whereas a lot of those people are fly-by-nights, and they'll tell you this, and they know darn good and well that they cannot afford the animal, and they're going to try and dupe you out of it somehow. And that's gotten to be pretty commonplace with animals. And you're dealing in something that's alive, and it's a gamble, because one minute it's alive and the next minute it can be dead. Nobody's got a guarantee on life. So that's the...
Yeah, especially when you've got animals that have been brought in from the wild, you know. You never know what's going to affect them.
You don't know how they've been kept. And some dealers are great, and some dealers ought to be shot. I've been in places before in the Miami area. Unfortunately, the good ones like Bill Chase, they've gone by the wayside. They've passed on. One of the proteges of Bill was Louis Porras, and Louis is probably one of the best people in the business. He has Fauna Books now. I think he publishes a book. But Louis was always honest with people, and Bill was too. Some of the worst, well, I better not mention the name. You could smell decomp about a block before you got there.
Ooh.
And you would see maybe 30 baby reticulated pythons in a little 10 or 15 gallon aquarium. And the dead ones were all on the bottom, and what was live was crawling around in the muck on top. And they'd take him out and wash him off, put him in a sack. Hey, here, pet shop, take this. This is great. The same thing with ball pythons. Ball pythons used to come in by the thousands.
Oh yeah.
And I went in one place in Miami, and as far as the eye could see in this huge warehouse, there was nothing but ball pythons in sacks, like 20 of them or 50 of them in a sack. It was unbelievable, and you could smell that there was a bunch of dead ones. And I asked him, I said, what do you do about the carnage? That's the people that get them, they'll let us know. And I said, jeez.
Oh goodness.
So I decided I really didn't want that kind of profession or to be involved in something where something like that was happening to the animals. And I'm glad I didn't. As it was, I went back to school because, as I said, we had 4 children, and it was hard to make it as a teacher and then collecting and everything else. And my wife had her master's, and she taught the profoundly handicapped children for 44 years.
Wow.
And I taught 34 years, and I have a doctor. I have a PhD in zoology.
Wow.
So, and I had a lot of fun because I was able to take kids on collecting trips.
Oh wow.
Yeah, sometimes we'd stop off in Acuna, Mexico for a brunch. And we'd leave there about 9 o'clock at night.
Oh wow.
We'd really be brunch, but we really had a good time. Since then, I've been real lucky collecting. I got the 4th known specimen of 4th and 5th, caught them both same night, of gray-banded kingsnake.
Oh wow.
And that was in 66 or 67.
So was that in the area of 277?
It was 277. I caught both those snakes. I caught the small one first. I was with Lewis Childs and with Vernon Childs and Harry Green. And I caught the smallest one first, and then a big one second, and both were light phased with a darkish colored head. And I had mine for years, and I had all these dealers show up from all over, and here I was living, just as Joe common man in a little place, and here all these dealers show up with cash coming out their pockets wanting to buy them.
Greybands.
And this was the first ones. And Hank Molt,